To be honest, I'd rather just be a little lonelier than deal with all the hassle of dating. I'm really not in a place emotionally and financially where I can deal with sorting through a bunch of misses to find a missus. Nowadays, with dating apps, there's always something new and more exciting just around the corner. So many women I've dated have abruptly broken things off because they found something more exciting. Dating is like taking on a part time job. I don't have the time or the energy. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. Social media, Hollywood, and porn have really altered the expectations of the general public across the board when looking for a mate. It's actually really messed up psychologically when a person thinks about it. Specifically, unrealistic expectations are held by people who conveniently hold themselves to extremely low standards but feel entitled to the best. More specifically, unrealistic expectations are held by people who act like victims when they're confronted with equally high expectations.
Picture this. A new wave of men, strong, independent, and focused, are stepping away from traditional relationships, and they're not coming back. This isn't a story of heartbreak or resentment, but a shift in mindset, a shift that's already starting to change the dynamics of dating, marriage, and personal fulfillment. Why are these men walking away? And what does it mean for the future of relationships? Today, we're diving into the powerful reasons behind this trend that's quietly shaking up the modern world. So, if you're wondering whether this wave of men walking away is just a phase or something deeper, keep watching. You might just find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about relationships and the role of men in them. Are you ready? Let's explore why this new wave is making waves in the world of dating and why you might want to pay attention. The rise of self-preservation. In a world that's been increasingly focused on individual success, men are starting to realize something important. Self-preservation is no longer optional, it's essential. For years, men have been told to sacrifice, provide, and be the ones who support their partners, their families, their businesses, often at the expense of their own happiness. But something's changing. Today, more and more men are choosing themselves first. They're realizing that pouring into relationships that drain them emotionally, physically, or mentally isn't sustainable. The burnout is real. And rather than continuing to give endlessly, many men are stepping away and putting their peace of mind above all else. And here's where it gets interesting. Do you think these men are selfish? Or are they finally starting to set healthy boundaries? This shift is not about giving up on love, but about protecting themselves from what they see as toxic patterns that have been normalized for too long. But what exactly is driving this wave? Why are so many men suddenly prioritizing their peace? Let's dive deeper. The burden of unrealistic expectations. Let's talk about the expectations that men have been shouldering for decades. Expectations that, frankly, have become increasingly unrealistic. From the expectation to always be the provider, the protector, to the pressure to meet every emotional need of their partners, men are starting to feel the weight of these burdens, and it's crushing them. Now, don't get me wrong, these are noble roles. But when the demands are endless and the gratitude or recognition is minimal, something snaps. For too long, men have been conditioned to believe that their value comes from what they can give, not who they are. And with this realization comes a critical turning point. Why should they continue to sacrifice their well-being when the reward is silence or resentment? Many men are starting to say, "I've done enough," and they're walking away, no longer willing to fit into these outdated molds. And here's the kicker. What if these men aren't just walking away from relationships, but from a lifestyle that doesn't serve them anymore? Does that sound familiar? Could this be part of the reason why so many men are opting out? Let's keep going, because what happens next will change the way you think about relationships. The reclamation of masculine energy and independence. Now, let's talk about the reclamation of something very important: masculine energy and independence. Over the years, the idea of masculinity has been both distorted and criticized. Men have been told to suppress their emotions, to focus solely on providing, and to be the rock in every relationship. But as modern times evolve, many men are choosing to reclaim their independence and their energy, not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of self-love. You see, when men start walking away from relationships that drain them, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's a declaration that their peace, their mental health, and their happiness are worth more than an idealized version of what Amen is supposed to be. So, when men choose to step back, they're not rejecting love or relationships. They're rejecting the toxic aspects of these dynamics that no longer serve their growth. The new wave of men isn't about giving up, it's about taking control of their destiny. And it's about saying no to relationships that demand everything and give nothing in return. Do you think this is just about a few bad relationships? Or is there a bigger trend at play here? Stick with me, because what I'm about to say might shock you. A shift in relationship dynamics. Here's where things get really interesting. With more men walking away, the traditional dynamics of relationships are changing. What used to be seen as normal, men staying in relationships because they feel obligated or women assuming they can control the narrative, has been flipped upside down. As men step back and focus on themselves, we're seeing a shift in how women are approaching relationships as well. Women are now faced with a reality where men are no longer the default helpers or providers. This forces a level of introspection for both genders. Men are reevaluating what they need in a partner, and women are rethinking what they expect from men. It's a dynamic that's pushing both sides to grow, evolve, and take responsibility for their own happiness. But here's the twist. Does this change signal the beginning of a healthier, more balanced approach to relationships? Or is it just a phase? Keep watching, because the final piece of this puzzle might just surprise you. Ready to hear the most important shift that men are making? Let's talk about it.
Is dating today, in your opinion, harder than it's ever been?
I was friends with my boyfriend before we started dating, and I feel like that's a more natural transition than like seeing features on your screen and trying to make a decision based on like a list of things.
People just try and avoid things because I think they're scared to say things straight up.
One red flag and you're kind of like, oh, I could go find somewhere else. You don't need to have one person when you could have like 5.
Honestly, I don't know. I've had really bad luck. So everything. Like, I've been treated like shit.
I think a big part of it is because of social media.
People see a lot, they exposed to a lot. They're always looking for better.
Everyone is always looking for the best thing, and they always think something else is around the corner, and you almost have too much access to too many people.
Conclusion. So, what's the takeaway here? The new wave of men walking away isn't about giving up on love. It's about finding a way to prioritize self-preservation, happiness, and authenticity in relationships. Men are no longer willing to be trapped by unrealistic expectations or by relationships that drain their energy. And this shift? It's forcing us all to rethink what truly matters in life and love. But here's the thing. This doesn't have to be a bad thing. Relationships can be healthy, fulfilling, and balanced. And it starts with being real about what we need and being brave enough to walk away from what we don't. If you want to learn more about navigating relationships, dating, and how to make smarter decisions when it comes to love, be sure to check out my next video on dating advice. In it, we'll talk about how to build strong, lasting relationships by focusing on what really matters. Click the link on the screen to watch now, and remember, your happiness is worth it. And that wraps up today's episode of Manosphere Daily. If you enjoyed the content, give it a like. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified as soon as a new video is out. Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.